With the rise of AI, sites like Grammarly, ProWritingAid, Hemingway Editor, and even ChatGPT have become a huge help for writers and independently self-published authors. But can they replace a line or copy editor? Hi, I'm Campbell, an indie author and a freelance editor, and today I'm going to break down the positives and negatives of using these sites over working with an editor. As with everything in self-publishing, you will need to assess which you have more of in regards to time and money, and more importantly, which ones you can afford to give up and still see success with your books. This first note is going to actually be for traditionally published authors, or those wishing to be traditionally published. So, as an editor who offers copy editing and beta reading services for indie authors, I also offer query letter help and partial manuscript evaluations for the first 10 to 30 pages for those seeking agency representation. I know that each person's path is unique. Whichever route you choose to follow in publishing is your choice, and it's going to involve different actions, and you'll be expected to adhere to different rules and expectations. For those reasons, I, as a copy editor, am here to tell you to not hire a copy editor or a proofreader if you are seeking an agent. I copy edit young adult manuscripts specifically. So currently, as of this video, April 2024, I charge 0.009 cents per word, which means a 70,000 word manuscript is going to run you about $630. There is a huge chunk of change you do not have to pay up front if you're seeking agency representation, because the editor that your publishing house is going to hire is going to do that work for you. In addition, line editing is even more expensive. I do this for select clients, usually repeat clients, and my rate is 0.03 cents a word, which means that same 70,000 word manuscript would be $2,100. It's understood that those who are freelance editors tend to work with independently published authors. So do not eat this charge yourself. It is not on you to pay for it unless you decide to go into self-publishing your work. Basically, what will be more important is having other eyes on your work before you submit that don't include your mom and your best friend and that one coworker who reads a lot of books. They might be good if they read your genre. If they don't, it's still not going to be helpful. So in your case, my shameless plug, beta reading or manuscript critique service would be better, especially if you are looking for the first 10 pages that most agencies ask for, or if you don't have anybody who specializes in beta reading to do that for you. Also, if you are still early on in your career and you haven't yet set up actual beta readers, and you may not even need to if you're going that route and you get picked up very early on, but that's a good idea to keep in mind that you can hire beta readers who specialize in your genre, or at least read the first 10 to 30 pages before you start submitting to agencies. The positives of working with editing sites. So the three most common editing sites are Grammarly, ProWritingAid, and Hemingway Editor. Grammarly reviews spelling, grammar, punctuation, clarity, engagement, and delivery mistakes in English text, detects plagiarism, and suggests replacements for the identified errors, and has been around since 2009. Also, I apologize if the wind's a little loud. We are about to get hit with storms, so I had to film this before I lost all light. ProWritingAid calls themselves the AI-powered writing assistant and aims to go above grammar, spelling, and punctuation help by designing their assistant specifically to help you tell better creative and business stories and share your ideas with the world. Lastly, Hemingway Editor follows the same structure as the aforementioned sites, but with a little more focus on readability in terms of the audience, much like ProWritingAid. Each of these sites have free and paid options. The free options on each site covers everything you need from an editing site. They're easy to figure out and start using, and as far as error checking and readability, these will be able to assist in polishing your writing without an additional penny. For most writers, the hardest part is spelling, grammar, and punctuation. They know how to captivate the reader into fantastical worlds with relatable characters, and through so many plot twists, we no longer know which way is up. However, the spelling of the word unfortunately, Yeah, forget that. It'll never be correct the first time. But that's okay. That's why these sites exist. Microsoft Word can catch most of these errors, but the readability is something that you do need AI for, because these sites are trained to catch that in a way that a black and white system like Word was never designed for. Here's a sentence that I wrote to try to test these sites for their readability. The majestic shine of the golden chandelier mirrored the expressions of the gala attendees in a way that hit me in my bones and prevented me from stepping forward. But the expectations of the queen burned from across the room, its own brilliant shine beckoning me to take the first step into my destiny. Microsoft Word would say nothing is wrong with the sentence because, in terms of spelling, grammar, and punctuation, nothing is wrong. However, it gets a score of 14 for readability by Hemingway Editor. They recommend at least a 9 to be understood by the majority of individuals, a score of 98 out of 100 for Grammarly, and a score of 22 on ProWritingAid, where they recommend a score of 7 to 10 for the majority of readers. Hemingway Editor and ProWritingAid both included suggestions about shortening the length of the sentence because it was easy for the reader to forget where they started and to lose sight of where they were going because of how long it was. If you are looking just for copy editing or even proofreading, Grammarly is a fantastic option. But if you're looking for a line editor and quite honestly can't afford to pay those prices, and I personally do not blame you, then Hemingway Editor and ProWritingAid are great choices as alternatives. However, the readability scores of ProWritingAid and Hemingway Editor make them much better options for fiction writers because of the readability. That being said, because they can perform these great acts of editorial services, does that mean you can replace a human editor if you're self-publishing? Now, before anyone comes to me with the argument of course you don't like AI editors because they'll replace your job, let me stop you right there. Those sites we just talked about don't know who exactly your intended audience is, and whether or not the readability score they provided will align with your audience's reading level. For copywriting, the simpler the structure of the sentences and word choices, the more reach the copy has. But for a high fantasy adult novel, the same simplicity is going to feel juvenile and potentially lose readers. A human editor is going to understand the nuances of language and modern voice in a way that AI is still learning to understand. For example, your character may have quirks where they repeat certain words or phrases, and an AI editor might flag all those as improper writing style. Or, in a high fantasy or highly technical science fiction story, those longer sentences may fit in just right with the characters and the setting, but you'll see a lower readability score because they don't match the government statistics of the overall population's reading level, which is so much lower than you think it is. Not only that, but the readability is a blanketed metric designed for the population. But if you write YA and your colleague writes speculative fiction, as I hinted at before, with a different genre, you'll get the same metric used against both manuscripts, and those aren't even on the same continent as each other. A human editor will be specialized in certain genres and age groups, like me, who specializes in YA and middle grade manuscripts, and will be able to match your writing with the other books in your age range and genre. Not to mention, when you self-publish, who's going to be reading your book? Computer programs or human readers? That's what I thought. Editors can be expensive, as I've already said above, but part of my beta reading services includes informing the author of where the story is difficult to follow or where sentences and paragraphs are hard to read and understand. Not only do I point these sections out, I offer recommendations for how to restructure the sentence to help it sound more like what a young reader would find in other YA novels in terms of voice or style. If you're strapped for cash, paying for anything is going to be daunting, and I understand that. But those early human readers are crucial in determining whether your story is good. I know, that's harsh. But it's better for an early reader to let you know that your story needs more work than 7 angry reviewers with 1 and 2 star ratings talking about how poorly developed your novel is. Worse, it can be so hard to come back from a rough debut because now you have to prove that you can write a great book despite your track record, as opposed to showing the world, look, I wrote an amazing debut book. Go check it out. My beta reading service is the bread and butter of my editorial business because it gives writers an opportunity to get a reader's eyes on their story while also getting feedback from an editor. And sometimes all you need is a comment raving about a line you love or a snarky remark from a character that made you laugh out loud when you devised it to make you feel like this is what you were put here to do. You were meant to be a writer and craft these hilarious, heartbreaking, wondrous stories and to connect with readers. And quite frankly, an AI editor isn't going to give you that. Personal experience, I just got my 3rd manuscript for my poetry back from an editor yesterday, and I was looking more for her positive comments than I was for her critiquing comments, because I needed that little boost of reminder to say, hey, this is good and I liked it. At the end of the day, publishing is a business, and you need to make the ultimate decision to what you can afford and what you can set aside funds for. I highly recommend using an AI editor for cleaning up your manuscript, for querying, or even before sending to a copy editor if you're self-publishing, to ensure it's as clean as possible for the readers. As an editor, I still don't catch 100% of them, but myself, paired with an AI editor, we should be able to catch like 99% of them, I would hope. But don't forget to find beta readers, because those amazing humans are going to be the ultimate test on whether or not your manuscript is ready for that next step. Do you use any of these writing sites in addition to editors, or do you just use one or the other? Let me know in the comments below. And if you are still watching this in April, my signed copies of my poetry collections are on sale on Etsy for 20% off. And yes, I am a Swiftie. Code TTPD20 will get you 20% off any of my books up there, which is 2. It's okay. I mean, it sounds like there was a lot. There's not. There's 2. But if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, share, all the clicky button things, and I will see you guys all next time in another video. Bye.
There was once a day that I would pray for you. I'd go and misbehave just so you'd notice too.